You already know something's off. Not with women, with the advice, the endless stream of it. Be confident, be a gentleman. Text her first, but not too much. Show you care, but don't seem desperate. Be funny, but don't try too hard. Keep the mystery alive, but be emotionally available. Lead, but also listen. Be ambitious, but not unavailable. You've absorbed all of it, tried most of it, and still found yourself standing in the rubble of something that should have worked. A girl who seemed genuinely interested and then just wasn't. A conversation that had real heat and then cooled to nothing over 3 days you can't account for. A relationship that felt right until it didn't, and nobody gave you a satisfying explanation. And the worst part isn't the confusion. The worst part is that you did everything you were supposed to do. And none of it was enough. Nobody told you why. Not really. They gave you tactics. Nobody gave you the map of the actual terrain. Here's what they never said plainly. Desire doesn't follow logic. It doesn't reward good behavior the way a boss rewards a reliable employee. It doesn't accumulate like points in a loyalty program. Show up consistently, be kind, be present, collect enough good guy tokens, and eventually she'll feel it. That's not how any of this works. And somewhere beneath all the advice you've followed, you already know that. You've watched the guy who seems to do everything wrong hold her attention effortlessly. You've been the guy who did everything right and felt her slipping away anyway. The guy who texts too fast and doesn't have much going on and says kind of dumb things, and somehow she's still thinking about him. And the guy who remembered her coffee order and showed up on time and listened and made her laugh. And she likes him as a person. That gap is not a mystery. It's information. The map was wrong. The territory was always something else entirely. What desire actually follows is rhythm, contrast, nervous system level signal. It follows the specific feeling a man creates in a woman's body and mind. Not what he says he is, not what he's trying to be, not even how considerate he is in practice, but what his presence actually communicates at a frequency below the words. And most men, smart men, genuinely good men, men who could give a woman everything she says she wants, are broadcasting weak signal. Not because they're bad people, because nobody explained what clean signal actually looks like or where it comes from. And the men who broadcast strong signal usually don't know why they do either. They've never had to think about it. Start with the two extremes because almost every man lives in one of them at some point, and most men have been both without realizing they're the same failure wearing different clothes. The first is Max. Max is everywhere. Max texts in the morning to say he's thinking about her. Max replies within 30 seconds, every time, regardless of what he was doing when the message came through. Max clears his Saturday when she mentions she might be free, cancels plans, rearranges his schedule, makes himself available, and then doesn't tell her he did any of that because he doesn't want to seem like he's doing it. Max asks where things stand after 2 weeks because the uncertainty is eating him alive. Max is communicating something with all of this, and it's not love, not even deep interest, really. What Max is communicating, with every immediate reply and cleared schedule and morning check-in, is that she is the most significant thing happening in his life right now. She is the axis everything else is organized around. And the cruel irony is that this makes him the least interesting thing happening in hers. The more total his availability, the less gravity he has. You can't be pulled towards something that's already pressing against you. Then there's zero. Zero disappears for 3 days with no explanation and expects her to be relieved when he surfaces. Zero leaves texts on read because he heard that mystery creates attraction, and mystery does create something, but not what he thinks. Zero goes cold when things start to feel real, because some part of him has confused emotional management with strength. Zero is performing the opposite of Max, but it's still a performance. It's still organized around her, just in reverse. His moves are reactions to her moves, his distance calibrated to her closeness. And a woman's nervous system can feel that distinction even when her conscious mind can't articulate it. The manufactured absence has a different texture than the absence of a man who is genuinely occupied with a life that matters to him. Zero creates anxiety sometimes, and anxiety can masquerade as excitement for a while. That pull toward the uncertain thing, the checking of the phone, the wondering. But anxiety isn't desire. It's the body scanning for threat. And eventually it exhausts itself. And eventually she moves toward the thing that doesn't exhaust her. Here's what both of these men share, and this is the part most men miss. Neither of them has a stable center. Max's entire system is organized around her response, her approval, her engagement, her continued interest. Zero's entire system is organized around managing her response, controlling the dynamic, staying ahead of rejection, never being the one who cares more. One is chasing, one is controlling, but both are orbiting her. Both have made her the gravitational center of their behavioral universe, which means neither of them has gravity of their own. And the thing about orbit is that it's obvious. It shows in the timing of the texts. It shows in how available he suddenly becomes when she seems distant. It shows in the slight performance quality of everything he does. The laugh that's one beat too enthusiastic, the story that's a little too polished, the casual that's trying too hard to seem casual. Women, not because they're running analysis, not because they're playing games, but because their nervous systems have been reading interpersonal signal for longer than any of us have been alive, can feel the orbit. An orbit, no matter how sophisticated, doesn't create the sensation of a man with his own gravitational pull. The alternative isn't a technique. That's the part that trips men up when they start to understand this. They want a formula. Text this many times, wait this many hours, disappear for this many days. And those formulas exist in various forms, and men learn them, and sometimes they work in the short term because they accidentally create the right rhythm. But they always break down eventually because they're impressions of the real thing, not the real thing. The real thing is a man whose life creates the rhythm naturally. He's not available at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday because he's genuinely doing something. Not performing busyness, not strategically ignoring her, but actually occupied by a life that has substance and motion and its own momentum that exists completely independently of whether she texts. When he shows up fully. When he's gone, he's genuinely gone. And this creates a specific quality of presence that no amount of strategic timing can manufacture. The quality of a man who is actually somewhere. This is where guys mess it up when they try to apply any of this. They read the concept, have a life, have depth, have purpose, and they treat it like another thing to perform, another item on the attraction checklist. They pick up a new hobby because they heard that passion is attractive, and they're right that it is. But they pick up the hobby for her, which means the hobby is still orbit in a different form. They post about the gym to signal that they're not sitting home waiting, which means the gym post is a communication to her, which means they're still waiting. They force themselves to not reply for an hour because they read that immediacy communicates desperation. And they're sitting there watching the clock and thinking about her the entire time, which is its own form of constant availability. All of this is just Max and Zero wearing a different costume. The question a woman's nervous system is actually asking, not consciously, not as a test she's running, but as pure biological information gathering, that happens below the threshold of deliberate thought is this? Does this man exist when I'm not looking at him? Is there something real here that has its own life and weight and direction? Or is this a reflection? A shape that's organized around what he thinks I want to see? Now here's what seals it. Beneath all the rhythm and behavioral pattern, there are 3 specific things that move a woman from she likes you to she thinks about you when she's trying not to. Not tactics to deploy, mechanisms, things that occur naturally when a man is genuinely present and genuinely full. The first is attention density, not frequency of contact, density of actual presence when contact happens. Max texts constantly, but his attention is thin. It's maintenance. It's checking in, keeping the line open, making sure the connection isn't fraying at the edges. Dense attention is different in kind, not just in degree. It's the moment when you're sitting across from her and you notice something, a small contradiction between what she's saying and what her face is doing when she says it, or a detail she mentioned in passing 6 weeks ago that she assumed you forgot, or the specific quality of her laugh when something genuinely surprises her versus when she's performing delight because it seems expected. And you name it, not as a demonstration, not because you read that noticing things creates intimacy, though it does, but because you're actually there, actually absorbing another human being rather than waiting for your turn to speak or running calculations about how you're coming across. That quality of attention is rare enough in most people's experience that when they encounter it, they feel it physically before they have cognitive language for what just happened. Someone actually saw them, not the version they were presenting, the real one underneath, and that lands in a nervous system differently than any compliment ever could. The second mechanism is what you might call the mirror of her potential. This one operates more quietly, but it's everywhere in the dynamics of real attraction, the kind that grows rather than fades. A woman will move toward a man who reflects back to her the version of herself she's reaching for, not by flattering her, not by telling her she's incredible, but by engaging with her at the level of who she's becoming rather than who she's presenting. By asking questions that assume depth and get surprised when they find it, by caring about the thing she's working on as if it actually matters. Because to him it does, because everything real matters to him, because he has enough going on in his own interior life that the interesting things other people are building actually register as interesting. By having enough of his own vision and direction that her ambitions have something real to orbit, a genuine thing that has its own trajectory, rather than a void that she is supposed to fill with her presence. This is why men who are genuinely passionate about something, not performing passion for effect, not dropping the names of what they're doing into conversation for status, but actually lit up from the inside by something that matters to them, are magnetic in ways that have nothing to do with the specific thing they're passionate about. It's the signal. A person who is genuinely alive to something is recognizable, and aliveness is contagious in the most literal neurological sense. You feel it when you're around it. It wakes something up. The third mechanism is masculine absence as contrast. And this is the one that gets weaponized most badly by men who learn it halfway. So stay with the real version and don't let it become zero in a new frame. When you're fully present, your absence creates a specific sensation that is different in quality from anything manufactured distance produces. Not anxiety, not confusion, something closer to heightened awareness. An acute consciousness of the particular quality of space that you've left. The way a room gets quieter after music stops rather than after a speaker cuts out. The difference matters.
The key is in the word fully. The absence only functions as contrast. Presence was genuinely real and genuinely dense. Max's absence creates nothing because his presence was already so constant and thin that it had no distinction.
It was background noise, and silence after background noise is just silence. Zero's absence creates anxiety because it never resolved into actual presence, so the nervous system stays in scanning mode, never getting to relax into the signal and feel the particular quality of it, which means the absence has nothing specific to contrast with. But a man who is genuinely there when he's there, whose attention has weight, whose conversation generates something, who makes the room different in some specific and nameable way when he's in it. When he's gone, she feels the specific shape of what's missing, not him generically, the particular thing that his presence creates. And that specificity is what becomes the foundation of genuine desire, the wanting of something particular, not just something. And this is where all of it either becomes real or collapses into a more sophisticated performance. Because everything here, the rhythm, the attention density, the genuine presence, the life that generates natural contrast, all of it can be performed convincingly for a limited time. Maybe 6 weeks, maybe 3 months if you're disciplined and your self-monitoring is strong. But performance is always leaking around the edges, and the longer it runs, the more visible the seams. The underlying man eventually surfaces. And if the underlying man is empty, if his life doesn't actually have substance and direction and stakes that exist completely apart from how she's responding to him, if his sense of himself is still organized around her approval at its foundation, if he's still max or zero in his interior even while he's executing something more sophisticated in his behavior, she will feel it. Not as a clear thought she can articulate, as a quality that shifts in the room, as a slight wrongness in his energy that she can't source but can't ignore, as the thing that makes her start pulling back while simultaneously feeling like she might be making a mistake, which is its own particular kind of exhaustion.